My name is Sira Boats, and thank you for joining Boats Memory Method. I am a dementia consultant, and I'm a daughter of dementia, and we are here to bring you hope on the dementia journey. And one of those hopeful items that I want to discuss today is BDNF. And although this is a neurotrophin, the most common neurotrophin in the brain that has been discovered for 30 years, 2024 marks 30 years of research on BDNF, but I was only recently introduced to this agent in the brain. So BDNF is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And as I mentioned, it's the most common neurotrophic agent released in the brain. But why is this important? I talk a lot about our neural cell health and how we are gifted new neural cells every day. And then it's up to us to maintain that health so that we do not develop neurocognitive decline. Neurocognitive decline can lead to dementia. Neurocognitive decline, in my opinion, is the condition where our neural cells die faster than they are regenerated. Guess what? BDNF is the agent in the brain that supports neural regeneration or neurogenesis. It supports neural differentiation. So in other words, changing the cells from one form to the next. It supports the maturation of the cells. In other words, keeping it healthy and growing to be a cell that can do its job. And it is important for the survival of neural cells. Now, that made me sit up straight. And I was wondering why I have not heard of BDNF before. Also, BDNF is considered an essential factor in neurogenesis. So like I just mentioned, we are gifted new nerve cells, even cells throughout our bodies every single day. But it's up to us if we maintain the health of those cells. And if we don't maintain the health of those cells and they start dying faster than they are generating, then we go into neurocognitive decline. So BDNF is an essential factor and it has neuroprotective components. When your brain is undergoing stressful situations such as low levels of oxygen, that may happen during sleep. Maybe you have sleep apnea, or maybe you went just through an episode at night where you're not getting enough oxygen. Your BDNF is going to protect your cells. That's why it's so important that we support our oxygen levels, is so that your BDNF don't get depleted and doesn't have to work so hard. So during times of low oxygen in the brain, that may also happen when you change your levels above sea height. You may be used to being at sea height, and now you're suddenly going into the mountains, and your oxygen levels may change. It also happens when you have a respiratory disease, or just maybe you have an acute onset of bronchitis, or maybe you have pneumonia and the oxygen levels drop in your blood. Then BDNF is going to be your little warrior protecting your cells. Also during times of excessive glucose. So if you are dosing yourself and you're in that high glucose rush, which is a very harming chemical to your cells, then your BDNF, the presence of enough BDNF in your cells will help protect your cells from glucose and from the damage of the chemicals. So that is such good news to me. This is an agent that will help when there's instability in your neural cells, and also during times of toxicity. We already talked about glucose can be a toxin, but it may be that you have some form of drug. It may be over-the-counter drugs, street drugs, alcohol toxicity in your cells, and BDNF will step in again as a little cell warrior to protect you. So it also promotes neuroplasticity and neural repair. So if there is damage, first off, plasticity, meaning that that cell can endure more stress, and then repair, meaning if there was damage, then BDNF will help repair cells. So to me, that sounds like we really need to start focusing a little bit on how can we boost BDNF levels. That's the first thing that comes to my mind is, what can I do to boost my BDNF levels? And let's just hover there for a little bit before we talk about how to boost your BDNF levels. If your BDNF levels decline for whatever reason, that is associated with neurodegenerative diseases and pathologies. Examples being Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and Huntington's disease. So it is in our best interest to maintain and to try improve BDNF levels. Now, we have advanced so much in microcellular research. However, brain research remains tricky because we have to rely on animal models. It's very hard to get the human to agree to offer some of their brain cells for research. And our brains are such an intricate operational system that it's not always possible to understand what chemicals drives which parts of the brain and when. And the roles of that chemicals can change. Sometimes they protect, sometimes they repair, sometimes they prevent. So, and those interchangeable capacity of this neurotrophin in particular makes it very hard to capture how that neurotrophin is really helping us and how much of it do we need, because it also waxes and wanes. But the good news are that there is research that supports the idea that we can boost and maintain BDNF levels in the brain. By the way, it's a very important piece in the amygdala and in the hippocampus, where we know is where our memories and our internal drive is at. And that's the area of the brain that's affected by Alzheimer's and other types of dementias. So if we can boost the hippocampus and the amygdala, then that's really good news. So how do we do that? Well, exercise, number one on the list, but not just any exercise. They talk about high intensity exercise, not only, it doesn't have to be just high intensity. They describe moderate to high intensity exercise as being good. So if you look at intensity, then you're looking at load, at muscular load. So going for a fast interval run, that can be considered a high intensity activity. Doing push-ups can be high intensity. So it's the speed and the load that you're doing an exercise at. Now, high intensity may look different for me and you. I'm fairly fit female of a certain age, but my intensity training is going to look different than my 16-year-old that's a lacrosse player. So she may have a higher level of intensity that she can perform at, but half that intensity may be high intensity for me. So you need to know your fitness levels. This is where it's a good idea to discuss where you're at with a physical therapist, athletic trainer, fitness trainer, to see what does moderate and high intensity exercise look like for you on a rowing machine or on an elliptical or on the treadmill or working out with weights. What does that look like safely for you? And you're going to get to a point where high intensity at the beginning of your exercise plan is now low intensity. And now you have to step it back up to get it back to moderate and high intensity. All right, so that's exercise. The minimum of 30 minutes a day to improve your BDNF. A healthy sleep schedule. We've talked about that a lot. And why is that so important? If you do not sleep between 7 to 9 hours a night, and if you are not going through the healthy sleep cycles, then your cells are not being repaired. Your body does not have enough time to scan and to build up the different proteins and collect the chemicals and collect the neurotrophins that it needs to repair and to support cell health. So sleep schedule is super important in neurogenesis and the regeneration of cells in your body. One of these days, I'm going to do a whole podcast just on sleep and what sleep health looks like. Then you have to manage your stress. So we know that stress, the collection of the hormone cortisol in your cells, can be a damaging hormone, and that can cause cell damage and cell death, ultimately, if you live under excessive stress and have excessive cortisol secretion all day long. So you have to manage your stress. You can do that with deep breaths. I love the idea of square breathing because I can just easily remember that. And that just means I breathe in for 4 through my nose. Hold that for 4. Breathe out for 4. And hold for 4. That's a very easy technique to help you to suppress your parasympathetic nervous response, to suppress that fight and flight, and to oxidate the brain. There's other breathing techniques that out there that can do just as well, but I just love the idea of square breathing because it's so easy to remember. So managing your stress is very important. You can do that with exercise too, and with a good sleep schedule. And last but not least is mental stimulation. So how can you include novel activities in your day? Do something different that you're not used to. Read a different piece of the newspaper. Google a piece of information like I did with BDNF, and I just have a treasure trove of information and articles, 30 years worth of research that talks about BDNF. Take your time. We have the technology at our fingertips now where you can create novelty for yourself, but be careful that it doesn't create stress, because novelty can create stress. So you have to limit your exposure to novel ideas as well. Pick and choose, but at least 30 minutes a day, spending your brain on something else. It can be art, learning something new, learning a new language. It can be learning about the new culture, researching a new idea, but taking a new route from your home to work. Novelty meaning challenging your brain in a different way than what it's used to. And I hope you enjoyed to learn about BDNF as much as I did. If you have any information or ideas or things that you want to learn more about that is connected to brain health, drop me a comment. Please follow our YouTube and go to our website at boatsmemorymethod.com where you can sign up for our monthly newsletter. We hope to see you soon.